time to check on weather now with Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric, we got a bit of a break from the heat this week, but how are things shaping up as we look to the week ahead?
Thanks, Rex. That break will continue for at least a few more days across most of the state, which is nice. The slow-moving trough will be our main weather play the early portion of the week. That'll keep temperatures cooler and will also give us a chance of showers and thunderstorms across a good portion of the state during Sunday and Monday. The WPC is not particularly bullish on most of the state picking up that much moisture from this, but some isolated pockets might pick up a quarter to half inch, maybe 3/4 inch of rain between Sunday morning and Monday evening. Temperatures will definitely be on the cooler side, though, the first portion of the week, particularly the further southeast in the state you go. This is going to be more of a reflection of it being more cloudy and maximum temperatures staying 10 to 15 degrees below their seasonal averages, so the humidity will still be a bit higher than average. As we move to a later portion of the week, we'll be back under the influence of ridging across the north-central U.S. This will bring back the heat to a point, particularly in western Nebraska. I think we might be flirting with 100 degrees by the end of the week across, say, Alliance and Chadron. And most of the rest of the state can expect temperatures probably back at least in the upper 80s, probably getting into the lower, maybe even mid-90s. But by late next weekend, though, we'll be watching a trough moving into the western U.S. And assuming that this actually is valid, with the Bermuda High being here closer to Florida, pumping up some moisture, there's going to be chances of some showers and thunderstorms, potentially even some severe weather by the end of this next week. So something to watch out for, particularly the eastern 2/3 of the state and into Iowa. European model shows a pretty good chance of 1 inch or more moisture. This also shows up in the GFS across the eastern half of the state. Unfortunately, western Nebraska not expected to pick up nearly as much moisture the next 7 to 10 days. At 8 to 14-day outlook, CPC keeps that area dry. This also is reflected in the European model. GFS is a little bit better across the Panhandle, but definitely shows some drier conditions across other parts of western and central Nebraska. CPC for temperature shows above average favored toward the end of the month. This is agreed with by the European model. Also the GFS, although GFS is a little bit more seasonal toward the very eastern side of the state. The CPC also has a slight risk of excessive heat across the very extreme northwestern portion of Nebraska for the last week of the month. In terms of recent precipitation, now we have had some beneficial moisture in parts of the Panhandle and other parts of western Nebraska the last week, but most places haven't picked up a significant amount of precipitation. This precipitation we saw here in central Nebraska on Tuesday also came at the expense of having some additional hail and wind damage. Speaking of crops issues, we do have some tar spots to report across portions of southeastern East Central Nebraska, and unfortunately also have noticed some southern rust creeping in the state here in the last few days as well. Drought monitor, we do see some expansion of abnormal dryness across the southern Panhandle and across portions of southwestern Nebraska. Still seeing moderate drought across other portions of the Panhandle. Probably getting pretty close to seeing some severe drought creeping into portions of Sioux County. Definitely showing some stress on rangelands across most of the Panhandle and into parts of southwestern Nebraska. Pretty good conditions here on the eastern side of the Sandhills, though. Crop conditions, generally pretty good conditions here in the east, poor conditions in the west. Quick dry also shows a little bit of dryness here creeping into parts of northeastern Nebraska, certainly showing the dryness in western Nebraska. Stress degree days above average across the Panhandle and portions of southwestern Nebraska, but generally relatively good everywhere else. Soil moisture, generally speaking, kind of about normal for this time of year. Soil temperatures mid-70s to low 80s, and temperature and precip rounded for the last week. Thanks. Back to you, Bryce.